Trump helped shine a light on these people. Look at this progression. May of 2018, there is no deep state. Former intelligence directors slam Trump's conspiracy theory. Then in 2019, they're like, well, there is no deep state, but maybe there should be. 2022, Daily Beast. You're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. So it went from there is no deep state to there is no deep state, but there should be, to you're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. That wouldn't have happened without Trump, period. It's not uncommon for Ukrainians, the same Ukraine that we were celebrating on 60 Minutes, and we want to send all this money to, all the black identitarians, all the black cabal in D.C. is like fully on board with. Forget about the Yahtzees and all that kind of stuff. Just from this standpoint, it's not uncommon for Ukrainians to refer to African Americans as N-word. Volunteers of color may be called a monkey or see children's game with blackface. This is the country you're supporting. This is the culture you support. You put a Ukrainian flag out. A lot of y'all probably never even had an American flag in your bio before. You're probably triggered by it. Nothing like supporting a country that would look at you as N-word and a monkey. Y'all supporting some crazy stuff, man. Same. What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Rural America is beautiful. Taking some time with the family. We are in rural parts of this country. Funny story, we went to see Mount Rushmore. And the only presidents my son knows are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So I asked him, who did you see on Mount Rushmore? My son says Joe Biden, and I'm dying of laughter. And I'm like, no, son, he didn't make it on there, and not unless you're doing worst of all time would he make a Mount Rushmore. But I love rural America, peaceful. If you don't bother people, they don't bother you. Something to think about as things get crazier in our world. Take care. Trump helped shine a light on rural America, peaceful. If you don't bother people, they don't bother you. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Something to think about as things get crazier in our world. Take care. Babylon B got locked out of Twitter for misgendering somebody. But if race and gender are both social constructs, and Candace Owens, for example, views herself as a black woman, why does Twitter allow tweets that call her white? In fact, a white supremacist. Is Twitter racist? It's very possible that Disney could have said, you know what? We want to do more representation, but at the same time, we're not going to demonize DeSantis. We're not going to demonize this bill, and we're not going to demonize fellow citizens who support the bill. You know, that is a possibility. That's not what they're doing. They're coming out, and not in this clip here, but they're coming out very strongly against the bill. Instead of saying, hey, we don't have any problem. Here's what we do at Disney. We create heartwarming stories. And I see a divide in our country. And maybe we can use Disney as a platform to create heartwarming stories with representation that, I don't know, maybe brings us together for a couple hours to watch a movie. Why isn't that a possibility? It is a possibility. And because they didn't do that, it makes me wonder why. So we have some comments in the chat. Let me take a break, read some comments on the reparations. Reparations are a fail, Casual Goat says. Stop focusing on the black community and stop putting them down. Reparations could include dropping CRT in cities. These are the things that keep black people down. Amen.
Ultra MAGA, Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Who came up with this phrase Ultra MAGA? Why the need to kick it up a notch?
Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or libertarian. They would say Comic Dave Smith is Ultra MAGA. They would say Robbie the Fire Bernstein is Ultra MAGA. They're libertarians. They would say Rand Paul, Kim Iverson. Guess what? You're Ultra MAGA, Congratulations. Join the club. It will be fun. You'll feel better. Embrace it. I'll make a Kim Iverson branded Ultra MAGA shirt for you. MAGA doesn't mean what it used to mean. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. Nico House, one of my favorite YouTubers, and Fiorella and Pasta and peasant journalists, you too. You're not exempt. You're Ultra MAGA. Will Cormier, you're Ultra MAGA, friend of show. River, you're Ultra MAGA. Congratulations, whether you liked it or not. If you don't agree with the Disinformation Governance Board, you are ultra MAGA, whether you like it or not. Welcome to the club. Embrace it. Have fun with it. This week, in a Thursday interview, Wheeler, the head of this PAC that lied, conceded that it was wrong when they insisted this photo of another woman in a bed was her. That was the photo with the woman that looked like she came out the 70s in Las Vegas. It was wrong when they claimed Boebert initially failed to disclose a campaign contribution from Ted Cruz. It was wrong when they suggested Cruz made a big contribution to Boebert's campaign immediately after she started running. It was wrong when they got the date of her accident wrong. It was off. It was wrong when they said she had an abortion in the fall of 2004 with the most generous interpretation that would only give her 6 months before you said she had an abortion and when she gave birth to her son. Something that would take 2 seconds to verify. Is this online gender-based harassment? Would this fall under the purview of this group, Ms. Kamala Harris? Mic check, mic check. Ultra MAGA. Just mic check, making sure everything's working. We'll be starting soon. I demand an answer. They are saying because America started with British colonizers coming here with African slaves, that everything, the Declaration of Independence, the founding of the country, the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution is sort of trash.
Some will say, okay, so are you arguing for throwing out the Constitution? Should the Constitution be thrown out? What do we do?
Constitution is kind of trash.
Spider sense start tingling.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
What did you say, nigga?
It was written by slavers and colonists and white people who were willing to make deals with slavers and colonists.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
Spider sense start tingling.
They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that? They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that?
It's to be expected. There's a lot of things that are wrong with this industry. It's not just with the content per se, even the economic model is very archaic.
Yeah, I dreamed of being a comic book artist since I was a little boy, and I worked my way up. It was so hard. I made it to DC Comics, made it to Superman. My little boy dream came true. They made him woke. They got rid of his American citizenship. They said the truth, justice, and the American way doesn't matter. So you guys reported on it in October. I famously walked off the book, and that was a big deal. And soon after, I met up with Eric, and we started working on ISOM together. And I also made another book with another Warner Brothers DC Comics veteran, David Williams, and we created Truth, Justice, American Way as our love letter to like your classic Avengers, Superman, Batman kind of stories. So that's going on too, and working on ISOM with Eric has been amazing.
But I also come from escaped slaves, okay? The people who weren't going to live under tyranny. I also come from a long line of civil rights activists, people who stand up when it's time to stand up, and they say, no more, I'm not going to kiss the ring, I'm not going to bend
Let's
the
go.
knee. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's the spirit that we have to have right now. And I definitely have it, and I want to spread it to you.
What's good? Osiris here. Stuck in the middle. Yeah, we're going to talk about Arizona, talk about the primaries. I was up late watching it last night. Oh, watching it on Rumble and Getter with Charlie Kirk and Jack Posovic. Man, they were doing a great job. That was a good feeling. That's the first time in my life I have ever watched an election result on like an alt platform, like a non-corporate media. Never seen that. I never watched election results, and it was just like almost like seeing the world for what it really is, pretty much. Because early in the night, Kari Lake was down. Well, she was down for a while. I went to sleep, but she was down. And I was like, oh, I wasn't panicking. I even put on Twitter, like, I don't know yet. But I was like, ooh. And then things changed. But I knew before I went to bed, they were, Jack Posobiec and Charlie Kirk were laying it out because they were being honest about it. Like, did she have a good chance or not? They were doing the numbers. It wasn't like some old bias thing. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. They haven't counted most of the votes. This process, man, is, I don't know, man. This election, just even from the media standpoint. It's crazy. Because you can look at it like, okay, they counted the votes, but it just depends on which votes you count. The same thing that happened to Trump. Not that anything wrong is necessarily wrong. It's like, who do you count? Whose votes do you count first? And then if you can't finish counting in the same night, then you go to sleep, and maybe it's urban areas that just pile in later, whatever. Even assuming nothing crazy is happening. So they gotta fix that. It's gotta happen in one night. Whatever you do, process you do, it has to happen in one night. Media is silent on Kari Lake. They don't want those problems. Thanks for joining. It's starting from the Kari Lake. I'm going to finish with the Kari Lake. I'm going to talk about DeSantis making the decision. He got an invite. If you heard, you might have heard he got an official invite to show up on The View. And I think it's worth talking about. I think it's definitely worth talking about. So I have Kari. I'm going to talk about McCain, go into debate and DeSantis. One of my favorite shows that, rest in peace to my favorite show. One of my favorite shows, You Are Here. A clip with young Nick Fuentes to talk about debate and why I like debate. Great clip to kind of show that. There's many you could find, but that's the one I came to mind. And then I'll finish with, I am getting into a little bit more Twitter. I don't even want to call them spats. But she didn't reply to me, so it's one way. So I didn't get a reply back. But Emma from what's her name? Emma Vigeland from the Majority Report, who it's with Sam Cedar. I don't like Sam Cedar. I don't know him, so I don't like to say I don't like somebody I don't know. I don't listen to his part of the shows. I don't really care for Sam Cedar. But I've always liked Emma. So I've always liked Emma, even though I disagree with her, see life differently. But I had to talk about her too, and then it will end on why they are so scared of Arizona. Hate the View. Gail says, I hate the View. Can't stand them. They are desperate right now. My mom and I used to watch the View when I used to work 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. a shift in Ohio. And during the day, I would stop by, and Mom likes the View. It's really disappointing because there are a lot of people that look at the View, and I think the concept of the show is great. I've always liked the concept of the show, and a lot of people have stolen it since. They're the first one I saw that did that kind of, conversation, like almost like you're real. Now they're fake. They had Trump on there before. I played those clips. I think they were more real before with Barbara Walters, and they don't have good balance on there anymore. And like everything else, Eric July just uploaded a video about Harley Quinn talking about systemic racism in the comic book. Everything like The View has been taken over to serve a purpose. I talked about that yesterday too. Robin Vegas, thanks for stopping by. We're going to get started shortly with the topics. Just want to say hi to everybody. Robin Vegas, every district should hold the final tally until all districts have finished counting. Why not? Somebody give me an argument against that. I know the TV media would want to see it leak out, but Either you want to do what's right or you don't. I think, and maybe it's something that a state could pass. I don't know. Is that legislation you can pass? I don't know. It definitely wouldn't be a federal law. It would have to be at the state level. But I would really appreciate that. But wouldn't that be crazy though? If they held the votes, so we wouldn't have had some of this drama, and some of this distrust if they had held the votes and then we woke up today and it was like Kari Lake projected winner. I think she's still projected. Like, people in the chat are correcting me. I think she's still just a projected winner, not official yet. So we're getting thoughts on the review. So I'm going to talk about Ensign Ricky DeSantis. His rejection from The View was great. I'm going to talk about that. I respect the decision to reject, but you might be surprised by my take on that one. Let's get started. We were talking about the election. So you look at this, and I'm not familiar with, I started watching. I didn't even know they had AG debates. I've never watched an attorney general debate before. But they have one on YouTube with Abraham Hamadeh. So I don't know much about him, but I know the other three. And they portray all of them kind of like MAGA. I think Trump has endorsed all of them. I know the top three very well. But look at this. Isn't this exciting in Arizona? Look at what's happening here. Kari Lake for governor. It's just the primary. So everyone might not make it through. Who knows? I surely support that, but who knows? But Kari Lake won Republican primary for governor. Blake Masters for Senate. I'm going to talk about him later. Mark Fincham. I think Mark Fincham is very underrated. When I listen to Mark Fincham speak, he's very on the nose, very respectful, unbiased. He's impressive for Secretary of State. So that's exciting to me. I always leave room to be wrong. They all will have to prove themselves. But I don't know Abraham Hamadeh yet. So the top three, I like what I see. Hype, pumped to see it. But Meghan McCain's not. Oh, she's not pumped to see it. I don't mean to laugh at someone else. There's no right or wrong. That's all opinion. But that's Abraham Hamadeh, Kari Lake, and Blake Masters. And I had to make sure people keep sleeping on him. I think he has a lot of potential. But he is a perfect candidate for Secretary of State. That is the perfect role for him. And part of the reason they're getting scared is because states have power. So you got Florida that's kind of almost like a gel that's solidifying red, and not just corporate red like MAGA red. They're scared about that. It's kind of weird how Georgia is so different than Florida, but I think it's the immigrants actually. Cubans, Venezuelans. Georgia has Atlanta, large black church that, no disrespect, but they're just walking zombies. They'll do whatever. Jim Clyburn comes in and they're like, oh yeah, or whoever comes in and like, oh yeah, we go corporate Democrat. But Florida's solidifying. Arizona, I don't know what's happening. Arizona's been more purple. So there's a reason why Meghan McCain and other people are really like, whoa, what's happening here? Because this is not a purple thing that these three or maybe four candidates are involved in. Comments from someone in Georgia. Thank you, Dr. Mimo 2526. I live in Georgia. It's shady as all hell in Georgia. And we've seen controversy there. Let's just say that before I get into trouble. Yes, we've seen that. We've seen controversy. After the pregnant Chad thing, they switched to electronic. Yep. I remember. I forgot how old I was. That was 2000, right? Was that 2000? Yeah. So, I still remember the video of them kind of looking. Is the is the punch. So the Chad was, I believe, the hole punch, I believe. So if you're too young and don't remember or don't know, you could look it up. They would literally be looking at the ballot and it would be half punched and it would be like a hanging Chad. It would be like the ballot didn't punch all the way through, and they had magnifying glasses and everything. It was crazy. So people had to play, people play too much. Guys, you go online. I still contend that Twitter needs to have like a meme search. I know they have a picture search, but I want a meme search. So that's Kari Lake. It's a joke YouTube. Kari Lake with her foot up the ass. Is it Corinne Taylor Robson or whatever? It's weird how, the election's closer than I thought it would be. But she did spend a lot of money. So we'll see. Meghan McCain was excited at first. She was like, if Lake wins tonight, she is currently polling around 10 to 12 points behind the Democratic candidate, Katie Hobbs. That is a lot of runway to make up. I don't know why it hasn't occurred to Arizona GOP that Arizona is filled with independents and free thinkers. There were so many tweets flying back and forth. I didn't get them all. But before, like last night, Meghan McCain was kind of acting a fool when we saw the early results, and Robeson was up. She was up with about, I don't know, it was like over 50% coming in. It was 50 to 60%. But they didn't have the same day drop-offs and the same day voters. That went pretty much what I saw, 70%, maybe 2 to 1, consistently for Kari Lake. So she didn't know. And, she should have been watching Charlie Kirk with me. She would have known. And then she switched and she was like, well, Kari Lake will most likely win despite the fact that she was a lifelong progressive liberal, maxed out to Obama her entire life. All she had to do was vomit up MAGA, ultra MAGA talking points, and people bought it. She is a fraud, a conspiracy theorist, and not up to the character of governor. That is the most diplomatic and well thought out diss from Meghan McCain. She's had some really out there ones, some a little aggressive ones, but she had to acknowledge Kari Lake's probably going to win. We probably see what's happening. I thought this tweet was funny because she said that she was a lifelong progressive liberal. Do you know how many people I've talked to that said, I voted for Obama? I thought I was a liberal. I don't even know. I thought I was on the left. I don't even know what I was. I would just say I was blue-pilled. Never really warmed up to most Republicans. Never was against them, though, either. Never thought necessarily anybody was racist or anything like that. But she says this like it's some kind of own. Do you know how many people are out there like us? And not maybe some people in the chat too. Officer Tatum said he voted for Obama. I voted for Obama twice. It's a lot of people. NYC Angry Mom is someone who I started following, unbelievable, on Twitter since the pandemic. Just based takes. This take here. When someone accuses us, this is a leftist, I believe. I hate to label people and mislabel them, but my understanding is she thought she was a leftist, a typical, just a person living their life, not on the right. When someone accuses us of being right-wing now, the only appropriate response is to shrug emoji. To be affiliated with the political left at this exact moment, this one was more recent, but in February of 2022, means supporting the indefinite restriction of human life to revolve around the avoidance of one unavoidable virus. To me, it strikes as she was one of those bear moms. I did a video way back where I showed a video I picked from YouTube of a mama bear getting angry when people were getting close to her and her cubs. That's the vision I get from her. And there was a lot of people like that. And when the mama bears get angry, the papa bears have no choice but to follow. If there's any mothers in the chat, tell me if I'm wrong. When the mother bear gets upset, the father bear better not be too far behind, at least for humans. Perfect examples, Tim Pool. I consider him a classic liberal, whatever. He's I call him a leftist. People say he's not a leftist. I call him a liberal, whatever. He's not a right guy. Skateboard dude. And Jimmy Dore is a leftist. They're both labeled as right-wing nut jobs by some. It's a badge of honor, Meghan. These people are so insulated. They don't talk to regular people. They don't know why Arizona's happening. This dude right here, laid it out like I've never heard anybody lay it out.
You know something interesting? Before COVID, I considered myself more of a liberal than a conservative. But during COVID, I did a lot of research that took me down a lot of different rabbit holes. And this is what I discovered. And it's clear to see. It's clear as day now. You can see it. The liberal agenda is to destroy the innocence and boundaries of children while denying reality by pacifying the imbalanced emotions of people with mental illness. This is what's happening right now. These are some of the reasons why America is destroying itself from the inside out right now. Not all of the reasons, but some of the reasons. I'm more aligned with conservative views than liberal views today. And I'm blown away by that myself.
What a base take. Let me repeat that. I wrote that down just so, because it was so well done, almost like he was a MC or something like that. He said, the liberal agenda today, so I would say the neoliberal agenda, classic liberals kind of line up with libertarians in a way. The neoliberal agenda is to destroy the innocence and boundaries of children while denying reality by pacifying the imbalanced emotions of people with mental illness. Bars. One more time. I gotta hear that one more time.
What I've discovered, and it's clear to see, it's clear as day now, you can see it. The liberal agenda is to destroy the innocence and boundaries of children while denying reality by pacifying the imbalanced emotions of people with mental illness. This is what's happening right now. These are some of the reasons why America is destroying itself from the inside out right now. Not all of the reasons, but some of the reasons. I'm more aligned with conservative views than liberal views today. And I'm blown away by that myself.
You got people like, damn. It is really something to think about. When you think about it, it's like, damn, it's like the Overton window. It shifted crazy. So to realize that is really, I was talking to Robbie the Fire Bernstein today, and I was like, man, he was like, how's the channel going? Because I talked to him months ago. And I was like, it's really helped me find myself. That's what it has. That's what it's done. Forcing to articulate these points, to defend these points, or to change your mind. I've never really been more clear about who I am culturally, socially, faith-wise, parent-wise, father-wise, country-wise. Never been more in tune. So there's a lot of negative, obviously, that's come out of the pandemic. I'm actually grateful for that positive. I'm thinking about, well, what if the pandemic and stuff never got crazy? I'm like, when would I find myself? Would I ever have found myself? I don't know. So Meghan, it's not the own you thought it was. When you tried to diss people, Meghan McCain said, keep obsessing over me. Well, let's start with what Kari Lake said. Kari Lake said, Meghan McCain is like a rabid dog who's been cornered thrashing around. They exchanged words. Then Meghan McCain said, keep obsessing over me like an ex-boyfriend. Q, bitch. Whoa. Why exactly can't you keep my name out your head or mouth? This is daily. Once again, are me and my Twitter account really the most pressing issues for Arizona and their voters? I don't believe that. You know what I would like? This is the before times. This is Kari Lake with Cindy McCain and Meghan McCain. I think it was, does it have it there, 2012? Remember when we actually used to talk to each other? Like it wasn't like a Twitter beef. I'm as guilty as anybody else with that. This was August 13th, 2012. Kari Lake interviewed Cindy and Meghan McCain. That can't happen now anymore. It can, but it doesn't. And we're not better off for it. We got to practice it. We're like how we can't live like this. There's no path forward, and that has nothing to do with politics. There is no path forward if you can't be a Kari Lake and a Meghan McCain. Meghan McCain is perfectly entitled to her views. We can label them corporate establishment shill, dangerous, harmful, hurtful, disingenuous. We can call it whatever we want. She's entitled to that. And people could say the same thing about Kari Lake or any one of us in the chat with our nuanced differences. But if we can't sit down, it's like we're all working at home and Zoom calls and chatting on Twitter. Man, we can't live like this. And that's going to get me into the DeSantis discussion. Trump, the last says Trump derangement syndrome created this. McCain cannot even talk to someone who supports Trump. And we all have to take responsibility. I agree completely. The last, man, somebody's got to be the first person to be like, I'm putting my chair in the middle. You come put your chair and sit down. That's why I really respected the Tim Pool. I always talk about Tim Pool a lot. I mean, it's just, I listen to Tim Pool a lot, so forgive me. And he's great, so I shouldn't even apologize for that. But I just want to explain why. I've listened to like every episode since the pandemic, damn near. Like every episode and after show. It's not healthy. Even my wife knows who Tim Pool is. My wife I was watching Tim Pool the other day. My wife was like, were you watching Tim Pool again? I was like, we've never talked about Tim Pool before. I was like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, what do you mean? I seen you watching him all the time. But because you can project it on the TV, which is really cool. He's working on the app for the TVs. But I would say that episode he had with Vosh and Charlie Kirk, good. And he's talking about doing a debate or, sit down. It doesn't have to be called a debate. Just sit down and talk every Sunday. We need to get back to that. And there have to be sacrifices made, in my opinion. And it brings us to The View. At The View, emailed our office on Friday. This is one of the, deputy press secretary for Governor DeSantis, Brian Griffin. I follow, it's Christina Pushaw, I believe, or Pushaw. She's great. I don't know Brian very well, but I'll start following him. So he's sharing this with people that The View emailed their office Friday asking for us to arrange an appearance from Governor DeSantis on the show, and they said we would be honored. So I didn't expect them to do that. Now, obviously, somebody wrote it, but that was respectful. They didn't have to do that. Thoughts? My first thought is yes, absolutely. Why can't we sit down and talk? I understand. I know it's a trap. I got it. There's so many. Have you seen that? There's so many different, Marvel stories and DC stories where like Batman's going to go save somebody or whatever, or Justice League or whoever, or even the Fall Guy. I'm dating myself with Lee Majors. I believe it was Lee Majors. One of my favorite shows of all time is The Fall Guy in the 80s. Whether it was MacGyver or whatever, you would be going into a trap. I know that's just a show, but just hear me out. You're going into a trap. You know it's a trap. But for me, the opportunity, because I'm going to play well, I don't know if I have the clip ready, but I'll just say it. That the opportunity here is The View and others, they try to dehumanize MAGA. Anyone, that all that means is anyone who does not bend the knee to Joe Biden, you are MAGA. They try to demonize you as, oh, a black Republican? Oh, this is an oxymoron. And she has this bizarre look on her face. I think that's an oxymoron. She's trying to dehumanize. I don't even know the name of that black. She's good. They should keep her on there. I don't know who she is. I forgot. The black Republican that's been on The View. Or conservative. They try to dehumanize you like you're something wrong, like you're something evil. That's what they try to do. How do you combat that? Yes, you can do that on going on Tucker or whoever your shows that you're friendly with on. But isn't it more powerful if you take the risk? If you take that risk and you go on a show where you know it's a trap and you go on there, I wish they would choose Kari Lake because she can go at you and still be nice. I don't know if DeSantis, he can, but not as well as Kari Lake to me. What's better to show people I'm just a person? Like they call me a bigot, literally. They don't even know me. They don't even know me. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about DeSantis. They call him a bigot. They don't even know him. Let me see if I can play this here. This is the start where this is part of the reason why they said, nah, we're good.
I hope it's not DeSantis over in Florida because I think he's a fascist. DeSantis. I think.
So this was back in when the Death Santis thing was popular. She didn't make that up, but it was kind of catchy. It's Sunny doing her kind of like I'm slick routine. She does that a lot.
I hope it's not DeSantis over in Florida because I think he's a fascist. DeSantis. I think he handled COVID miserably. I think he's a fascist and a bigot. But
those are his good points.
Those are his good points.
Okay, I get it. How do you go on a show with somebody like this is funny? Like this is people life. That was one of my red pill moments. Not that episode, but just thinking about, man, people are lying or they're playing games, manipulating statistics, and we're talking about life and death. If they do it about life and death, they'll do it about anything. So I don't get me wrong, I don't blame DeSantis for saying no. Easy for me to say. And even though if they had reached out and I would say, yeah, DeSantis, yes, my thought would be yes, but then you also want to make sure, I don't know, is that show live? You definitely want a recording of it so they can't clip you out. There's things you want to negotiate, but at the end of the day, to me, the answer has to be yes. It has to be. Defend your points. I know they're going to come and try to they're obviously not going to talk about anything good you do. Okay, so what? You can bring that up and defend the other stuff. If you've made mistakes, just admit you made mistakes. That's to me. We're in an era where do you think DeSantis going on The View would hurt him with anyone who supports him now? I don't even think that's possible unless something crazy happened. With independence, maybe, I don't know. So I'm just trying to analyze the risk reward. Tell me in the chat, do you agree? They're trying to dehumanize people. So you've got to show that you're human. You go on the show and you talk about, hey, the bill, I know everyone labeled it as don't say gay. That's not. Let me tell you what it's about. I know it's easy for me to say because they'll cut you off. Let them cut you off and be peaceful and stay back. And then get your opportunity to come across as a human. They could set a trap and mess around and have Batman free the good guy or whatever, and that's what happened in the end all the time. I know this is real life, but it could happen. they could set a trap, and then they could end up humanizing Ron DeSantis and giving him a platform with suburban, whoever the demographics of the View are. I'll take a look at the chat and see what people think about that. But yeah, that's my thought. I think he should go. He already said no, but he won't. Well, let me read it. He won't appear on The View anytime soon, with his press reps citing prior condemnations of their boss by the show's hosts. Again, I don't blame him, because that's beyond condemnation. That's like dehumanization. That's bad stuff. Death Santis. Is that funny? In addition to Sunny Hostin's, I never know how to pronounce her last name. Sunny Hostin's June comments, in August 2021, Joy Behar called DeSantis a homicidal sociopath for his less stringent pandemic restrictions. I don't think they would want to talk about that now. They don't look good now. Deputy Press Secretary Brian Griffin shared his response. I put the tweet up there. He was arguing that the show can't hold a nuanced discussion with the governor. They said, but are the hosts of The View really interested in hearing from Governor DeSantis about all of the important work he is doing on behalf of Floridians to protect their health and livelihoods, to stand up for parents and children, and to defend freedom? So they might have done the risk-reward analysis and said it's not worth it, we're out. And I can't blame them. So just let me say, in my hypothetical vacuum of a world, I would like to see it. And be honest in the chat. I'm going to look at the chats in a second. Be honest with me. In theory, would you like to see it? I know you don't want to boost their ratings and all that, but just in theory, would you like to see a debate between DeSantis and everyone on The View? That's what I would say. Dems are name-calling pieces of ish. Well, that's the thing. But here's the thing. You can go back to my videos. I've probably called some names too. So we all have responsibility, but they are the aggressors. Let's not make any mistake about that. There's no mistake about that. Pick an issue, whether it's 2A and anything else, Roe v. Wade. They are the aggressors. Period. It's hard to find an issue where the non-corporate group are the aggressors. Brendan Tadaro says he shouldn't go because there won't be a debate and they will control the conversation. Now, we did have one recently, and that did happen with, remember, Joy Reid and Christopher Rufo. Very unusual thing where Joy Reid was attacking Chris Rufo. Chris Rufo's like, if you're going to attack me, can I come on? And much respect, Joy Reid said yes. And yes, Joy Reid was cutting him off a little bit, but I still think we're better off for that conversation. And I don't even look at it who won or lost. It's not even like that. But yeah, they will. They'll there's what, 3 of them? Yeah, and one of him, they're going to dominate that for sure. On their home court, I got you. It's difficult. But I said the same thing about Herschel Walker. He's got a debate, man. I don't care about him being, he's like deep South. People who have that deep South dialect, or I don't even know what to call it. I think sometimes you can mistake them for not being smart just because they don't speak maybe as refined as, maybe for a lack of a better word, as somebody else. Somebody who I like a lot, even though he's gone semi-woke, is Shannon Sharp. He does that show Undisputed. I think it's still on. I used to listen to it every day, but now I'm in the politics stuff, not into the sports. But him and Skip Bayless, great show. People think Shannon Sharp's one of the smartest personalities out there. He's not deep South like Herschel with his accent, but people mistake that for him not being smart. I don't care, Herschel. I don't articulate. Man, we want real people. I actually like that. To have somebody in D.C., even though I'm not fully on Herschel yet. I don't want to say yet. I'm not. So we'll see. I'm not sold that he's a populist. He might be corporate control. I'm not sure. I don't know. But nothing against them. Wish them the best. We'll see when their vote comes. But I love to see people who just talk like normal people in D.C. You can have Mitt Romneys who are so polished and refined and impressive, like Obama and that. But I like to see real people. Marjorie Taylor Greene goes on Tim Cass for 3 hours, did it 3 times. I am the after show, just talk. We can talk about anything. That's a real person to me. There are not many politicians in D.C. that would go on a show and just shoot the breeze, especially a show like that where they can just make off-color jokes a little bit and stuff like that. Eric Smith says, it's tricky. Thanks for stopping by. Nice to see you. It's tricky, and I think one should be careful when dancing with these devils. And most of the time, they are people to stay away from. Words to heed. Much respect, Eric. There is not one word that you uttered that I disagree with, sir. Thank you. Go on to the next topic here. This is an odd one for me to bring up, I think. But we're talking about debate. One of my most favorite debates that I've heard recently, it's not even a debate, just it's bringing people with different ideas to sit down at the same table. I don't really mean debate as in arguing or even discussing something back and forth. Even if you all agree, you've got people with different ideologies having a seat at the same table. That's what I want to see. And this is what happened when Nick Fuentes went on You Are Here, one of my favorite episodes of one of my favorite shows of all time.
Because, okay, you're not married.
Right.
You're not a big fan of the females.
No, I'm not a fan.
Explain to me why. Because obviously this comes out of the fact this is like a deep.
So as a warning, this is insensitive. I don't think it's. We need to have insensitive, respectful conversation. And you can say what you want about Nick Fuentes, and I know just saying his name, that changes everything for this video on YouTube, probably. But he was on that show, so maybe that's just in my head. But you can say whatever you want to say about his beliefs, being bigoted or however you want to describe it, sexist. But it's respectful discussion, though.
Deeper, issue with the fact that from like the porn culture and the model of the e-cam, the simp culture, like men are not finding partners, and also men are not, becoming men that women want to marry. It's vice versa, right? It's like we're in this weird sort of world, but you're just by choice.
Yeah, well, I feel like I am sort of the real inheritor of the legacy of, great geniuses, philosophers. I point this out on my show often. When you think about like Aristotle, Thomas Aquinas, Schopenhauer, they all had a very specific take on women, which is that they're sort of like the inferior gender. And I point this out on my show, if you believe in the Bible.
Just to be clear, I just don't want to conflate. And people will. I mean, you do what you do, but I will make it clear that I do not agree. And I'll talk about one of his points that he makes up on how I would try to talk to him about this one point he made up to back up his thoughts here.
If you're a Christian, in the story creation, man is created in the image of God. Woman is made from man's rib. And so when you think about it this way, the genesis of a woman is really from a piece of man. So how can a woman have comparable faculties or superior faculties really in any way to a man if she's made from a man's rib? So, I'm basically just against this whole, some people say they're against feminism or third wave feminism. I'm against this whole feminized society. I'm against, because we really live in a thoroughly feminist world order. And I reject the whole.
So let me talk about it's funny. I don't know how it came up. My wife and I were not talking about this particular topic, but I told her one day, and I've talked about it on the channel way back. So Nick Fuentes is making this argument based on the, Genesis, basically. And the thing that, I'm not an expert on the Bible. I'm not Bryson Gray. So let me put that out there. I will get corrections, but to me, the problem with what he said there is, where in nature, it's not very often in nature that a man creates life or gives birth to life. Maybe it's out there in some weird species of some weird thing in the deep, dark ocean or something like that. But where you see that at normally? It's normally the female that gives birth to life, right? And we don't. So I think the official thing is God doesn't have a gender, right? But I don't know. What if God? If God did have a gender, wouldn't it make sense that God would be a woman? Who created? So you say, well, Adam was created in the image of God, or that's how you kind of say it. That sounds weird to me. A man creating a man, that doesn't sound normal to me. A man doesn't really give birth to life. It would make more sense. And how would that change Nick's position? But see, that's the type of discussion. My point of even bringing this up, and I'll play a little bit more, is we can sit down and you can call him whatever name you want, but he's not being you could say he's having a conversation. He's not attacking anyone.
Thing. People say patriarchy, this and that. I'm probably even more extreme than that. I just want to return to, the old world, the old way of doing things.
Women don't drive, don't vote type of thing? Or?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, approximating like Saudi Arabia. I don't think they're too far off the mark.
I mean, you could potentially go and live in Saudi Arabia then.
So that was your first sign that Sydney, if you don't know, that's Sydney Watson, the great Sydney Watson, one of the first big YouTubers I started following. Her videos are unbelievable, very well done. Her ads, any Sydney Watson fans here? There aren't many. Rich Rebuilds is a Tesla guy. He does good like in video promotion. She's probably one of the best. She puts a lot of work into her promotions, so I'm sure companies appreciate that. This was the first sign that Sydney was like, I'm not. Sydney, look at her face. Look at Sydney's face. Ah! I gotta clip that for a meme. She was like, well, you could take your ass on over to Saudi Arabia then, you know that, right? Or wherever he said.
The old way of doing things.
Women don't drive, don't vote type of thing? Or?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, approximating like Saudi Arabia. I don't think they're too far off the mark.
I mean, you could potentially go and live in Saudi Arabia then.
Well, I'm not Muslim, so that's...
Well, you can't fly.
That too. That as well.
Yeah, that is challenging. You can't get on a plane.
I mean, I guess you could take you could take a boat.
You can't even go to Saudi Arabia unless you're...
So I really like how that went, because it was a little, Sydney's like, I'm not feeling this dude. She knew who he was going in, but then they have some humor to lighten it up, the power of humor. Then they start making a joke about a boat or something stupid, and that lightens the mood a little bit. They're going to go back and forth. Guess who else was on this episode? So you've got Elijah Schaffer, who kind of aligns with Nick Fuentes, I would say, street journalist. Sydney Watson, different ideology. You got a guy named wearing a shirt. I don't even know if I can say what he was wearing, what it was on his shirt, the producer. And guess who else was on this episode?
Invited.
Is there a no boat list?
Yeah, true.
I don't know if they do that.
The no barge list? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd have to maybe go down to Florida, get on a cigarette boat or something and try and get over there.
But what's more concerning about this is that the AI is what's going to have real world impacts in this, because a lot of our...
They're off topic. I just wanted to... I was going to clip this out, but I wanted to show who else was on this show here.
Have you heard about this? I never heard about this.
This is the way I...
So look at the ideologies. You've got an anarcho-capitalist. You've got Elijah Schaffer, Nick Fuentes, Sydney Watson, and the producer. Isn't that beautiful? All sitting down and just talking and not agreeing. Little bit of tension, a lot of bit of tension. And Sydney does such a good job of just saying, I'm gonna wait this out. I'm gonna hear you out before I kind of get into this. Redacted said, and if you believe in the Bible, the writers call him father, not mother. So who wrote the Bible? Where did we get that? Why is God referred to as father in the Bible? Answer that. I'll keep playing the video.
Is really the whole point.
Oh, the black dude was Eric July. I just wanted to show, so you've got these different people at the table with different ideologies. Way different ideologies. I love your face.
No, I'm just...
Nick is an authoritarian. Nick is the opposite of Eric July. So let me make sure I break that down, just name drop these people, like make sure everybody knows. Nick Fuentes is an authoritarian. He would want to take over DC, and I would side, as far as like basic politics, more with him than, like a leftist. I would side more with Eric July than anybody else on that set. But Nick is an authoritarian, Eric July is an anarcho-capitalist. They're literally opposite philosophies.
I'm just listening. I'm just observing. You can keep going. Continue.
She's like, we can keep going.
No, because I mean, I would prefer to get a handle on what you think from your mouth.
That's very
before
Chinese
I
of
say
him, though.
anything.
You know, just
So if we don't debate, or not debate, I keep saying that, if we don't sit at the same table, then we won't learn this skill that Sydney is so beautifully showing here, so you can have a productive discussion. She's like, well, I just want to hear, I'm just listening, I'm just observing, I'm not going to make full judgment yet.
Continue.
She's like, we can keep going.
No, because I mean, I would prefer to get a handle on what you think from your mouth.
that's very
before I
Chinese of
say
him, though.
anything.
You know, just only men. So he doesn't want any female children. It's very Chinese.
Yeah, no, I think they're awake on this question. You know, I mean, as far as like marriage
Well, it's
goes,
more about population control there rather than, getting
well,
rid
and
of
it's
women.
it's like the old world stuff about like a dowry and like, gendered stuff and all that. But, at least for me, it's sort of like a pride thing. Like I want to produce a male heir to take on my name, take on my legacy and all that. And, marriage is sort of pursuant to that goal. But, I don't know about this whole prospect of like living with a woman for the rest of my life. Like, it sounds good at first. It sounds like kind of fun or interesting. You don't have to do laundry. You don't have to worry about kind of taking care of the house. But, then the prospect of just like, it goes on and on and on. And it's decade after decade after decade.
Look at Sydney's face.
I don't.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so the thing that I struggle with, Nick, is I feel like I'm a fairly good judge of whether somebody's joking or not in person. I played poker and stuff in person. I don't know where he's joking, trolling, or not. I think he's being serious here, but he's also being funny in a very insensitive way. Just to be clear, I don't agree with him here, but it's worth discussing. But then the other layer is this just his shtick? Is this just is it a character? I don't know. I really don't know. So I just stick to the philosophies. I don't agree with him here. I might agree with him on, he was talking about the Trump Schedule F. I agreed with it. It was a great segment by Nick Fuentes talking about the Trump Schedule F. I agreed with him, I think 100% on that skip or segment, but not this. This was a funny moment though. I'm going to end it after here.
Don't have to do laundry. You don't have to worry about kind of taking care of the house. But,
Look at Sydney's face here.
Prospect of just like it goes on and on and on, and it's decade after decade after
Sydney is
decade.
not happy.
And I don't know how thrilled I
She's literally biting her tongue.
am with that whole idea. I'm kind of a solitary individual. I like my privacy. I like my autonomy, and just the idea of like nagging wife. It's a little nightmarish to me.
Do you have a good relationship with your mom?
I love my mom. Yeah, I love my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Fair. So she was biting her tongue because I think she had the question here about the mum. She had it when she was biting her tongue, literally, when her mouth was closed. I think she knew, what's his relationship with women? Fair question. And notice Nick didn't take it as a insult or anything like that.
Of introverted. Yeah, but we get along.
Do you respect women?
Of course.
But you just don't want them to have any rights.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
No, yes you did, bro. You said you intimated that they shouldn't be able to vote. Now, driving's not a right, but damn, what is that?
They shouldn't have rights.
But if I'm understanding your question correctly, if you don't want them to vote or drive or have an existence akin to what they would have in, say, Saudi Arabia, you would say that in large part, then they don't really have rights.
Well, I would say probably the ideal is something more like Afghanistan, if I'm being totally honest. Like recent,
so what's the difference
recent
between
Afghanistan
then and Saudi Arabia?
So I'm going to end it on that. That my whole point. Go check that. Listen to that. That whole episode was amazing. Sometimes a show that good, maybe that's part of the reason why it can't last is episodes like that. But that's the reason why I like to see discussion and debate. Here's where I'm going to end this last topic. I got to actually leave to pick up my kids in a little bit. Emma is one of the main hosts of the YouTube channel, The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar, who famously recently, he did debate Tim Pool back in the day. Recently Ethan Klein was going to debate Steven Crowder, and pop out of nowhere came Sam Cedar. Sam Cedar, who goes back and forth with Jimmy Dore all the time. That's Sam Cedar. But Emma is the better host to me. Sam is very smart, don't get me wrong, but I think Emma's just better. But here's the games. We're talking about Arizona, and somebody said, why? Somebody on the left is like a never Trumper. Why? Like almost like that liberal meme. No. They're like why? No. And I think the account that said it was a rhetorical question, but that's not the right label. It was a fake question. I think the account that said it, I forget the name, I think they knew. They knew why. But if people don't know why that happened, I'm going to try to show you why. I'm going to try to show you a thread as to just partly what, not the whole thing why, but things like this are what I think people see, and everyone might not say anything, but they see it. So here's the quote. This was from June. They put out that they wanted to wait probably closer to the primary to kind of do a hit on Blake Masters. Headline from USA Today: Blake Masters, Trump-backed Senate candidate, blames black people, frankly, for gun violence. Got to be careful reading these headlines nowadays. So I see the headline. I need to look at the article. Emma replies, just to remind us, just thinking about this again today. Here's hoping Mark Kelly beats the ish out of him electorally in the general. I like that she did add the nod. She didn't mean it in a violent way. I appreciate that. So she said, well, I hope Mark Kelly beats the ish out of him. It's kind of like, oh, look, remember black voters? He's a racist. That's where we're getting at. She didn't say that, but I wish she would have said what she really meant. I asked her. Because I already knew about that story, already heard what really happened, because these accounts have been going really hard at Blake Masters. At least online, they've been going harder on Blake Masters online to me than Kari Lake, even. And I've been like, what is this dude about? I've been trying to find out. He's been on the War Room, and he's really, I like him as a candidate. So I had to do a thread on this because I'm like, wait a second, I know what's happening here. And that's the whole point I did this channel, and they don't understand this affects everything. Emma is the perfect example of the modern, and this is a historical thing that Democrats have always done. Just because I said modern doesn't mean it's not Democrats of the 19th century as well. Emma is the perfect example of the modern Democrat who manipulates the black identity. The reason why I say the black identity is my kids are half black and half white. Are they black or are they half white? You're just making this stuff up. Is quarter black Garrett? Is he black or is he white? Like, what is it? Is I'm going to bring up Steph Curry. Is Steph Curry black or white? Or a mixture? Whatever. Who manipulates the black identity for her own political interests. And I will explain why. On April 11th, that's what this article is getting this stuff from. On April 11th, on the Jeff Orovitz show, Blake Masters said, and I don't know this show other than when I looked it up earlier this year. He said, we do have a gun violence problem in this country, and it's gang violence. It's people in Chicago, St. Louis shooting each other. Very often, black people, frankly. And the Democrats don't want to do anything. So that's what they took. I have the audio receipts if you want to hear it yourself.
And then you're mentioning how she was light on sentencing and things like that. When do they look at that and say, hey, our leftist policies are failing, especially when it comes to inner city violence and big city violence?
Oh, totally. They don't actually care about crime, right? Like, we do have a gun violence problem in this country, and it's gang violence, right? It's gangs. It's people in Chicago, St. Louis, shooting each other. Very often, black people, frankly. And the Democrats don't want to do anything about that. Look at San Francisco and LA. They've legalized crime, property crime. You can't even get arrested if you go and smash someone's window and take a purse or an iPhone. They're light on crime.
That's the clip right there for anyone who wanted to hear what he said. And good point. Eric Smith says, is black culture even a thing? I think it's more of an American culture. Yes, absolutely. I think culture is more tied to where you are. There might be a Southern culture where they eat crawfish or whatever it is. There might be a New York culture. But when you say black culture, nah, I don't believe in black community. I don't believe in LGBTQ community. There's people who are LGBTQ that have all types of beliefs. So no, I agree. It's an excuse to avoid having to acknowledge that you are a part of American culture. That's what it is. So that's what Blake Masters said. Tell me where the lie is. Somebody tell me where the lie is. I didn't find the lie. I'll go on the tweet here a little bit more. And I'm like, Emma, help me find the lie. What specifically did Blake say that you disagree with? Even the leftists agree that there's black violence, that they want to just focus on only black people, but they agree with Blake Masters. They just don't like that Blake Masters said it. Emma, who's tweeted all kinds of stuff about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. Are you just going to intimate that he's a racist or insinuate that he's a racist without justifying it? I haven't seen her justify it. Blake doesn't just talk about these issues through the lens of race. He said that he had the same take on Ketanji Brown Jackson to a certain extent on this angle as I did. Here's his take on, this was the same show.
What I said was she's the affirmative action candidate. And she just indisputably is, because Biden told us before, listing her, he told us days before, I will only consider a black female for this job. And I think that just rubs most Americans the wrong way. It's like, actually, most people aren't obsessed with race and affirmative action, and they just want the best person. It's like, who do you actually think would be the best judge, Biden? And that's who you should put forward. If it happens to be a black woman, great. But to discriminate against all men and all women of other races, I think is pretty wild. And so I think it's just going to be her legacy. She was chosen for her race and gender, and I think that's pretty messed up.
I agree with that. I've had the same take on that specifically. The last was talking about the Thomas Sowell book, and I believe it's called Black Rednecks, White Liberals. I just finished reading it on recommendation. I apologize who, it might have been Eric, I don't know. Somebody on the chat recommended that book to me. Excellent. It is on the topic here. So I'm going to be out here soon, but just to finish this up, Blake's point is that people like Emma talk about race all the time. The reason why I played the Ketanji Brown Jackson clip is to show, he's saying, well, why are we looking at everything through the lens of race? And he's bringing up race with the shootings because he's saying, well, you look at race all the time, but only when it's, this is my take now, only when it's convenient to use as a political weapon, i.e. criminal justice reform, getting somebody voted, Black Lives Matter. But then if you really cared, you would be honest about the stats. Black Americans represent 14% of the U.S. population, yet accounted for 52% of all homicide victims in 2019. If you wonder why I'm going back to 2019, if you've looked up these stats, it usually takes over a year and a half to get the stats. So you won't get the stats for 2020 until next year, probably. So the reason I put that up there is because the intra-racial, like white on white, black on black, is pretty similar. But the problem is that it's more, and this is homicides in general, but in more 52% Black Americans. So that's something, that's a fact. I mean, these are facts here. This is from the FBI website, data from 2018 showing Black African American as far as victim, race of offender. So these are facts that we're looking at. We can debate the cause. Blake Masters did not say that it was happening because they were black. Now, there are people with that take out here, Nick Fuentes being one of them. And you know what? I can listen to Nick Fuentes and hear all he just said where I played it, and then hear him have that take about black people and be like, hey, that's where I disagree. doesn't really dwell on it that much, but that is his belief, if I'm stating it correctly. But Blake Masters, that was not his belief. He did not say that. If Nick Fuentes had said that, and then you said, "Hey, look at what he said," I would have been like, "Yeah, I agree. He's an identitarian just like you. I don't like either one of y'all on that topic." But Blake just said, that's just the facts of the matter. Debate the cause, debate the solutions, but the facts are the facts. And these cities have been run down by Democrat leaders, most of them, for even decades. Let's acknowledge that. So I'm going to end exactly how I started, and I'm going to be out quickly because I got to run. Disingenuous people like Emma, to me, are a part of the reason that Arizona, the Arizona primary went Kari Lake, Blake Masters, Mark Fincham, Abraham Hamadeh. Why? Because of disingenuous people like that, with disingenuous takes. We all know the truth, not in everything, but in this topic, pretty much everybody knows the truth. Just nobody, it's like the elephant in the room, nobody wants to talk about it. Some are afraid to say it out loud. But when you go in that voting booth, nobody is around. And that fear, you might have fear, you might not want to get a mic and say it in front of people on YouTube or whatever you're doing. You might not want to do that. But that doesn't change that you know what the truth is. So when you know what the truth is and people don't acknowledge the truth, then it comes out in other ways. Some ways unproductive, some ways bad. When nobody's around, that fear is gone. That's why voting is private. I go into the voting booth and I check Kari Lake. I might not even have told my friends. Arizona is supposed to be purple. All my friends are for the Democrats, or they think that these are MAGA insurrectionists. And you go into that booth and you're like, make sure nobody's looking over you. I don't even know how some of these booths are. Some of them have the big thing. Some of them have the thing where you go deep down in. They're all different. But when you go in there, you might be like, Trump. You might have been like, out in public, you might have like, those maggots. And then you get into the booth, you like, Trump, check. And there you go. You might be like Kari Lake, Blake Masters, check. Yep. If you don't know why, that's why. If you still don't understand, just talk to someone. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.